After a tough performance against Kansas, Mikel Brown Jr. follows up with a dominant game against Bucknell.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? And welcome into this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my sixth year covering U of L, fourth year hosting this show. And I want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. Just a reminder, don't forget to leave a comment in the YouTube section below, because as you all know, that's a great way to help the show continue to grow. It is much appreciated. The Louisville Cardinals finishing exhibition play with a 99-76 victory over the Bucknell Bison. We will deliver a full game recap. Mikel Brown Jr. leading the way for the Cardinals, made 8 3-pointers against Bucknell. Solid bounce-back performance after a tough game against Kansas. The Cardinals lit it up from three-point land. We'll discuss the backcourt dominating. The frontcourt had some ups and downs, and then we will have a full comprehensive review of the Cardinals' exhibition play as we go into the regular season starting next week. So a lot of stuff to get into, but we start with the main news, and I believe that that's the Cardinals' backcourt. Louisville's backcourt looked significantly better than it did against Kansas just a couple nights ago. Now, I understand that the level of competition wasn't as good. Bucknell, yes, they're probably going to be one of the best teams in the Patriot League once again, but they're not Kansas. They probably aren't going to be a giant killer when it comes to that caliber of mid-major team. I think they're probably middle of the pack when it comes to mid-major teams. But still, it wasn't so much about who you were playing. It's about what you saw on the court for Louisville. I wanted to see a little bit more cohesiveness on offense. And the main takeaway is that, yes, it is still a work in progress, but they looked better. You could just tell. You trust what you saw with your eyes on Tuesday night. And that was that this team just looked more comfortable. The game seemed like it slowed down a little bit, especially for Mikel Brown Jr., for Isaac McKneely. The Cardinals overall, 23 of 46 from three-point land. If this was a regular season game, it would have set a program record for most three-pointers made in the game. There were 50% from behind the arc. Incredible shooting performance from Pat Kelsey's team, and it was led by Mikel Brown Jr. And, I mean, I forgot who it was on the team. I think it was Javon Hadley that said, being this good and this renowned, you're going to receive the criticism like this when you don't play well. And he mentioned, he's like, it's going to stick with Mikel. People are going to say this. It's not going to stick with Mikel. People are going to say it when talking about Mikel until he proves otherwise. And boy, did he on Tuesday night. He had a game-high 28 points for the Cardinals, made 6 three-pointers in the first half. The final one was that fade-in three-pointer right before the halftime buzzer, almost at the logo, or it might have been at the edge of the logo. He ended up hitting 2 more in the second half, 8 of 13 from the field, 8 of 11 from three-point land, 4 of 5 from the charity stripe. He also pitched in 6 assists and 4 rebounds. So overall, really solid game. Only 1 turnover, which you love to see. He was a plus 21 in the plus-minus category, which, of course, is awesome. You'll see a lot of good numbers from this team. But, again, it looked like things slowed down for him. He was getting his shot in the flow of the offense. And somebody made a point on Twitter that when Mikel had a lackluster game this summer, he followed it up with a very impressive performance right after. And that kind of is exactly what he did in exhibition play. Not a great first game, and he bounces back saying, well, hey, calling me a bust after one game was hilariously short-sighted. Of course, it is an exhibition game against a team that you are clearly more talented than, but it's just nice to see the shot falling. You could tell how much confidence he plays with, and he wasn't forcing much. He was taking the shots that he knows that he can hit. So Louisville is going to need him to be as good as advertised if they want to reach their ceiling. But it's not just him. It's the backcourt in general. Isaac McKneely, he had 18 points, 6 of 9 from three-point land. Ryan Conwell, 15 points, 4 of 7 from three-point land. Having those two guys step up and give you that three-headed monster in the Cardinals' backcourt, it's such a luxury and advantage to have moving forward. I don't want to take too much away from this Bucknell victory because I have to stay true to what I'm saying, right? In exhibition play, you can't get too high and you can't get too low. So we're going to celebrate accordingly. We're going to talk about what went right. We're going to talk about what didn't go right, but we're going to keep context in mind. We're going to keep big picture also in mind. I think that it's just great to see the team bounce back. And it started out kind of rough. The first 10 minutes was back and forth. The Louisville's defense really didn't show up. They gave up second chance points. They were making shots. Like Mikel got started off on a very high note. He didn't really take any time getting going, but Louisville's defense allowed Bucknell to hang around until later in the first half when the Cardinals were able to start pulling away and they didn't look back. And I know that happens. And even when it gets to the regular season, like you will see top 25 teams struggle in the first 10 minutes against a mid-major that they're expected to beat by over 20 points. Like it just happens. It's about how you adjust, waking up and making the necessary changes and handling a team that you're supposed to dominate. So nice to see that. The backcourt, I think, served a little bit of foreshadowing for what's to come, is that if Louisville is going to have a ton of success, it's going to look like this. The backcourt is going to show out. Are they going to shoot 50% from three for the rest of the year? No. But I do think that there's going to be a clear improvement from last year's team. Last year's team, you had Rain Smith, who was one of the best shooters in the country. Chucky Hepburn, who was extremely streaky, but really good. Terrence Edwards could make some shots. Outside of that, I mean, Louisville wasn't a great three-point shooting team. In fact, teams forced the Cardinals to shoot the ball because they knew that it was a struggle of theirs. This year, you're not going to be able to do that. Isaac McKneely, you saw tonight. I mean, there was one play, and Pat Kelsey does a great job of scheming these plays up, orchestrating great plays out of timeouts, usually on the baseline. This one wasn't out of a baseline, or I'm sorry, out of a timeout, but it was on the baseline. Guy down low throws it to Conwell up top, and there is a beautiful elevator screen to get Isaac McKneely open on the wing, right above the break, above the left break, and I think he finds Sananda Fru in the middle, and Fru misses the dunk. It was either Fru or Khalifa, and somebody missed a shot. I think it was Fru on the dunk, but still, the action to get McKneely open. It's exactly what we thought with Rain Smith, and it's pretty much exactly why we wanted Isaac McKneely here, because we thought that, okay, McKneely brings a better sense of ball handling and overall scoring than Rain does, but look at all of the sets that Kelsey ran last year to get Rain Smith open. You saw some of that last night to get Isaac McKneely open, specifically the one play that I just mentioned. Now, the offensive cohesiveness is still a work in progress. Yes, I think that there were more sets ran, but it still feels like Pat Kelsey's like, hey, go out there and just play your all's game. There were more pick and rolls, more movement without the ball, but still I think that you're going to see it improve more and more as the season goes on, the more guys get comfortable. But the backcourt was great. Now, Adrian Woolley, on the other hand, he had 3 points. It was a three-pointer in the second half. He was 1 of 8 from the field. Exhibition play hasn't been the greatest for him. I think that he has the largest adjustment to make when you talk about that 4-player group with Mikel, because Mikel is just a generational guard prospect. Ryan Conwell comes from the Big East. Isaac McKneely comes from the ACC. They're veteran guys. Adrian Woolley was always going to have the highest need for adjustment coming from playing at Kennesaw State. He's accepting a different role here. long story short, I'm not worried about Woolley. I think when he finds his footing, he's going to be an extremely solid piece, I think, off the bench for the Cardinals. But the backcourt play was great. They were dominant. And when you saw Louisville go on that run in the first half, it's because the backcourt took over. And it's going to be a significant strength for this team moving forward. Now, the front court, on the other hand, ups and downs in the game against Bucknell. There are some things that I want to highlight, some ideas that I have, understanding very well that you're not operating at full strength with Kasean Pryor out, but simply put, Louisville needs more from the front court. More on that when we come back. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. It delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same attention to how we craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. We still need to have a comprehensive review of the short-term exhibition play leading into regular season play beginning next week. And we will, coming up in the next segment. But before we do that, let's talk about the front court, because the front court, I feel like, is where most of the concerns lie with this fan base, and rightfully so. I think that the Cardinals, it's great that they made 23 three-pointers in this game. Don't get me wrong. They were 14 of 18 from the free throw line. But something that does concern me is that even though they scored 99 points, only 8 of those made field goals were 2-point field goals. I just don't know that that is sustainable. I think that you need to have more production from the front court. And looking at it, I will admit, Sananda Fru had 11 points, 4 of 5 from the field. He hit a three-pointer in the second half, only 2 rebounds. I need to see more from him. He did only play 11 minutes, but he had a good second half. Had 2 dunks. There was one play where he got a pass. It was a delayed pass to the middle of the floor, and he was able to do a drop step and dunk. And then the following defensive possession, he ended up with a block. So Sananda Fru, the potential is there. It's just a matter of unlocking that. Ali Khalifa ended up with 2 points, 1 of 2 from the field. He had 5 assists, 2 rebounds. Vangelis Zougaris, he had 0 points. I'm sorry, Fru didn't play 11 minutes. He played, 16 minutes. My apologies. Fru played 16. Zougaris played 13. Ali Khalifa played 16 as well. And they combined for, 7 rebounds? Those 3 players, like your front court players, combined for 7 rebounds. But put that to the side, is through the first 2 games, or first exhibition games, Louisville hasn't had much of an interior presence on either end of the floor. Khalifa pretty much plays around the perimeter, getting guys open, and that is his role. But when he gets the ball down in the post, he doesn't really look to take the ball to the basket. Sananda Fru, I think there's a transition adjustment that needs to be made, going from playing European-style basketball to playing D1 college ball. And then Vangelis Zougaris, sort of the same thing. I think that Zougaris is more that scrappy guy that you're not relying upon to be a guy that's going to give you a ton of points, but you have to keep defenses honest, and that comes with having a threat down low. And look, I'm trying to toe the fine line between not making unfair, overreactive general statements, but also trying to see the first 2 games and predict what that's going to look like. Here's the thing. I trust that Kasean Pryor coming back is going to help this team defensively, mostly more than offensively. I think that's no knock on him offensively, but I think that his tenacity that he plays with, his ability to protect the rim, because currently Louisville, outside of Sananda Fru, Ali Khalifa is not a rim protector, nor is Zugris. And Fru, I think it's taking him a little longer because it was always going to take him some time. I mean, the risk you have when you recruit international players is that there's no telling how long that adjustment period is going to be until he gets comfortable. And I think that you saw good things in the second half from Fru, and I think he's going to continue to get comfortable. But having Pryor back is going to help the versatility, having more bodies in the front court, and the dynamic ability. He's going to be the best on-ball defender probably on the team, assuming that he comes back with the same athleticism from that torn ACL. All signs are pointing to him, recovering well. It's just that they are taking it slow, making sure you prioritize the long-term longevity of that health. And then offensively, like I said, pick and roll ability to crash the boards with his athleticism. He is a guy that can attack the rim. This is where losing James Scott hurt. I know that maybe he was limited offensively, but Louisville currently doesn't have a lob threat. And I think that that's taking away from an aspect on offense. So getting Pryor back is going to help. Organic growth and chemistry is going to help as well. And you're going to see that. This team has only played against external opponents twice now. And it's going to continue to improve as we get closer and closer to ACC play. But it goes without saying that the Cardinals are going to need more production than what we saw in the first two games if they want to reach that ceiling and be a true contender. Simply put, Louisville has to get more production. And it's not just from one player. Like last year, James Scott was your go-to guy. Pryor was hurt. You got sporadic production from Noah Waterman. Frank Anselm-Ebay gave you some good minutes here and there. Javon Hadley was another guy that helped out in the front court, but I don't know what the recipe is. Muhammad Kamara, they made the announcement that he is planning on redshirting this season. Louisville's planning on redshirting him. You're going to need Fru and Zugris to be able to make that adjustment sooner because you're going to need it against some of these non-conference teams like Kentucky, Arkansas, Tennessee, Memphis, Cincinnati, you name it. Of course, Ali Khalifa, I think, is going to have to be serviceable on defense. I know that he is a different style of big man, but it's almost like you need to play him with another big man because he just doesn't, or he hasn't given you much on the inside. And maybe he does give you a little bit more as he gets more comfortable. Like I said, he hasn't played basketball in over a year because of injury. Maybe it improves. And like I said, I understand that organic growth is going to happen. But I'm also saying that you can kind of put the pieces together. And when you look at the puzzle that you see right now, you just judge based upon the eye test, right? One thing that I will suggest that worked last year when you had to use it, and I think that it's going to be something that you want to see again this year, happened a little bit against Bucknell, is seeking out those mismatches for Javon Hadley to, back down his defender in the post. When Javon Hadley was at his best last year, it was utilizing those mismatches and going up against defenders that either weren't as tall as Hadley or weren't as strong as Hadley. And that is something moving forward through the season, is that if you're looking for a post presence, you're going to have to go with Hadley, who's got that skill set. And I think that playing him on the perimeter is great because he's got that talent. But I see Javon Hadley at his best when he is able to be an opportunistic post threat. So that's a portion of this that is what I'm looking at. I don't think Kenai Roots is there yet from a post-game standpoint, but I do believe that defensively, Roots could be utilized down low to just give you that verticality, because Kanai is extremely athletic. What he doesn't have with size and strength, perhaps he can compensate for with his verticality and length. So you have to get creative. This was kind of my worry coming into the season. I'm not saying that I'm panicking going into the regular season, but those worries are still worries after we saw the first 2 games of the exhibition play. So let's kind of give a little bit of a comprehensive review of the past 2 games from a collective sense and talk a little bit about heading into the regular season, because I'll be honest, there are a couple things that really excite me, and then there's a couple things that I'm worried about, and we'll highlight what those are when we come back on this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. The swivel screen is a game changer. Gosh, I've got the hiccups. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat, and the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. On tomorrow's show, we're going to get back into some football talk. Jeff Brom alluding to the possibility that Stanquan Clark could be back, and much sooner than maybe we all thought after the most recent news we got that he was likely to potentially miss the season. Now, seems like his return will happen in the next couple weeks. Good news in regards to Duke Watson's availability, and we will start to preview that upcoming matchup on the road against Virginia Tech. But we're going to wrap the show up today by kind of giving a little bit of a review into exhibition play. Louisville followed up a loss against Kansas 90-82 by defeating the Bucknell Bison 99-76. This was a close game in the first half, but Louisville was able to pull away. The Cardinals in this game shot really well from 3. They out-rebounded Bucknell by 2, but most of the rebounds came from guard play. Mikel Brown had more rebounds than the 3 frontcourt players. Ryan Conwell led the way with 8 rebounds. Now, the plus sign is that you are getting extreme effort crashing the boards from your backcourt. The drawback and what worries me moving forward is that I think with rebounding, and this is going to improve, but they're giving up way too many second chance opportunities. They're not creating enough second chance opportunities on the offensive end. And with the non-conference schedule the way it is, you're going up against some very tough physical teams. Kentucky and Arkansas being the 2 that I'm looking at. And to make a more of a general point, again, this is where you have to toe the line where 2 things can be true at one time. You want to be critical, but you don't want to be unfair and overreactive. I understand that this is the start of the season and it wasn't always going to be perfect right away, and that this team is going to be better. The point that I will make as an extension of that is because of the non-conference slate that you scheduled, you don't have the luxury of more patience than you would with a schedule that's filled with mid-majors that you're supposed to beat. That's where I'm getting at. I understand the game against Bucknell looked better than the game against Kansas, but we can agree that this team still needs some work on both ends of the floor. Not really a shock. It's not a terrible thing, right? I mean, there's this fallacy that teams just don't get better through the year. If this team is the same on October 29th as it is, if this team is the same on January 29th as it was on October 29th, then we have to have a different conversation. But again, I'm looking at this and saying, part of me is like, okay, well, they don't have it all together right now. They still have to gel. And the other part of me is like, well, you better get your act together because you don't have the luxury of patience almost. Because look, the season's not over after non-conference schedule. But what did we see last year? We saw this team take some time to gel. Now, they had to deal with injuries, and that was something that you couldn't really foresee, losing 2 starters in the first month of the season. But this team put it together, and they went 18-2 in conference play. They made it to the ACC championship game, but because they didn't have a signature win outside of Clemson, really, and because they didn't do well against good teams in the non-conference slate, the tournament committee didn't award the strength of schedule. They awarded the strength of wins, your best wins. Who were they? It was pretty clear. Now, these parameters and guidelines, they change seemingly every year just to fit narratives, but if that remains to be the rubric, well, then you can't really do what you did last year. Because the ACC, although it's going to be improved top to bottom, it's not going to be light years better than it was last year. You lose Clemson as a top-tier team. Louisville and Duke are going to be good. NC State probably takes a significant step forward. The bottom part of the conference will be more respectable, but it's not going to be a contending conference alongside the Big 12 and the ACC, or I'm sorry, the SEC. It's just not. They're not there. Will they get there? I'm not sure, but they're not there in 2025, 2026. So there's added emphasis and pressure on winning some big matchups early on in the season. So that's why I am adamant that this team has to start to gel. And I kind of wonder, and I understand the benefits of keeping guys fresh and trying to win games that way with second units, but I wonder if the frequent substituting and the constant rotating of players on and off the court, I wonder if it is slowing down the gelling of this team. I think it's a fair point. I think we saw it a little bit last year, and when the rotation shrank, it had to. But when it did, I feel like you started to see Louisville string those performances together. Does Pat Kelsey, going into the regular season, tweak things up a little bit? What happens when Kasean Pryor comes back? Because, I mean, in theory, it sounds good keeping guys fresh, and you might have been able to do that at the College of Charleston and Winthrop, but again, it kind of goes back to Pat Kelsey having to adjust. Playing high D1 basketball, Power 5 is like, do you have to change that up? Do you have to change the system to where not like you have to play 5 guys over 30 minutes a game, but do you tweak it to where you're keeping Mikel on the court longer? You're keeping Conwell and McKneely, Sananda Fru, Javon Hadley on the court longer, because when you go against those top teams, you're going to have to go with what works. And I'm intrigued to witness what Pat Kelsey's going to counteract with. And it probably isn't going to be the same for every game, but that's kind of where my head is at ending exhibition play. You saw some things that weren't great, understanding that it's going to take a little bit of time no matter how talented this team is. But I think you saw some good things sporadically against Kansas, even more so against Bucknell. When guard play is showing out, this team is going to be extremely challenging to beat, and they're going to get better and better. I truly believe that on both ends of the floor. And we will, of course, break down more action as the regular season starts next Monday. And if anything else pops up later on in the week. But the Cardinals end exhibition play on a high note with a win over Bucknell. They now turn their attention to South Carolina State to start the regular season on Monday. But that's going to wrap up this Wednesday edition of the show. We're back to football talk on the Thursday episode. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Louisville, your team every day. Go Cards.